You are right up my street.
Oh, you can't make me choose.
I go by Toyota. Sponsors T4.
Fuck me, Lee Ryan's 13.
I remember we couldn't remember the word for table.
Last week, Relisa was the winner and Zahira sashayed away. And this is You're Welcome America Presents Drag Race UK Season 6, Episode 5, Sofa Showdown. We had another baffling mini challenge, and then the maxi challenge for this week was the gals sitting down on the sofa for an episode of The Graham Norton Show. So you may have noticed that I'm doing the intro a little bit alone this week, and that is because Ben has packed himself off and he is getting some work done. So he'll be back. I mean, how long is that going to take?
Is he getting the full bag of chips?
Oh, he sure is. So that voice you heard there is my co-host for this week. It is our friend George, who we call Liz. So I will be referring to you as Liz throughout this episode.
Drag race rules apply.
Exactly. We won't be explaining why you're called Liz. We just are. So George is over to recap Drag Race UK with me. He's an avid viewer. We talk about it a lot over text. And George has a unique position for helping recap Drag Race UK. He is an American man married to a British man.
Yes.
One of the most British men we know.
I could say that, yeah.
So you've got an interesting insight into this, and you have already correctly said the name Graham.
Yes. My father-in-law's name, and he's visiting us right now, so I better learn it.
No
but
Graham.
Normally, I think when I first learned it, I said, "Oh, Graham," and Andrew just said, "What did you just say to me?" No.
Yeah, it's a real swallowing of every middle part of the name Graham.
I think it's because graham crackers.
Well, they're also technically called Graham crackers.
Right, but in America, we just call them graham crackers.
Graham crackers.
Okay, but Graham, I know how to say it, yes.
So we come back into the workroom after Zahira's elimination. How do you feel about Zahira going home? Felt like it was pretty right.
We saw everything we needed to from her.
Yeah.
I liked her a lot,
Yes.
but yes.
I agree. I think she's one of those queens that went out at the exact right moment she should, but had a very respectable run on the show. Okay, we do have Liz's dog Percy with us, so if you hear any strange noises, it's just him in the background.
Yeah, adding commentary.
So we're back in the workroom. Lil is feeling good about her lip sync win, but she's feeling guilty. And they actually... Ben is always laughing at me for saying actually. I'm going to just cut myself off saying it, and I'm going to start my sentence again.
Okay.
And I like that there's no kind of drama to recap, and they go straight into celebrating Relisa and how kind of she deserves her moment.
It felt like everyone was just like, that was the bottom that needed to be, except for maybe what we're going to get to in a second with Chanel, I think.
Well.
Or Benelle, as I like to call her.
Yeah, you were one of the first people to point out to me that something a little familiar about Chanel.
Yeah.
And it is because she is Ben, and Ben is she.
Even the like just random little like eye looks, like just a eye roll here, it just reminds me so much of Ben. Yeah.
There's some kind of Scottish heritage connection between them.
Yeah.
We're gonna find it out, get Chanel to do her family tree. Then we get a little bit of business about how Chara's feeling. She says she's been safe. Well, she's been safe in every episode of the show so far, and she thinks the judges could have forgotten about her.
Yeah, I wrote down Chara as soon as this was featured, because I was like, this is probably bad for you.
Yeah, it's not good, because she then in her interview is saying like, well, even if it's good or bad feedback, I just want to talk to them. And I did note to myself, Chara, you ain't winning shit. And I say that truly as someone who actually kind of likes her. I think I don't think she's going to win the show, but I do like her. I like that she's positive.
We've had this exact person on, and she was better.
Yeah.
Like almost exactly, looks exactly like her out of drag, has the same kind of vibe.
You're talking about Blue Hydrogen?
Yeah.
It's tough that they're both Belfast girls as well. It's very it's unfortunate how similar they are. So yeah, then they kind of de-drag and we get the credits. And I thought, we'll get into her later, but I thought I'd just ask you a question. Claire Richards, any idea?
Not at all. I mean, I wrote down the exact same thing. I said, normally I watch this without Andrew, so he would be telling me who all these people were. Claire Richards couldn't have guessed. But then later they helped me by constantly calling her Claire from Steps.
Well,
so,
we'll get to her in Steps later, and we will be discussing why Steps wasn't the lip sync song as well. But next day, I was just kind of noting to myself that I do like when I've said this quite a lot on the show, but I like when someone has a full pun drag name that you have to say their full name. And I like Chara and Relisa. I like that they're truly their names have just been shortened to names that don't make any sense and are
Right.
just like the name Releasa
Yeah.
is a really funny name.
Well, now her name is Release Elisa because RuPaul has just decided to change it. Because
Or sometimes Releasa Slavas.
yes, I feel like she's already gotten bored with that though, and is just like
Release
It's
Elisa.
very Heidi N Closet where she just says, "You know what? No, I'm
Yeah,
not
this
going to
is-
call you that."
Yeah, I'm not wasting my time on that.
My favorite part was to see Benel in a new hair look.
Yeah,
The side part.
yeah. Finally,
the-
that weird. What is that character from Super Mario that she looks like? It's
Oh,
like King
one of
Koopa
the
or
like
something, right?
Koopas. Yeah. Oh no,
So-
but she usually has a middle part, and now
Yes.
she has a side part. Looks so much better. And I wrote, Gen Z, stop it with the middle part.
I know. It's so weird how that's come back. It's all I wanted when I was in high school was a middle part because I have afro hair. I could never have greasy, we call them curtains. I could never
Right.
have those greasy floppy curtains because my hair just grew straight up.
Right.
Just all I wanted in life was Caucasian hair. And then turns out if you wish bad things against your hair, it just falls out.
Okay, well, there you go.
Now I just wish I had hair. Anyway, so we get the room mail and it is, "Hey Queens, idle chatter isn't worth a shilling, so time to get to the hot tea spilling. You can be a joker or you can be a grouch, but ain't nobody got time for a slouch on a couch." Is this a pun on something? Am I missing it?
A joker or a grouch? Yeah, I thought there was like a Sesame Street
That's what
thing
I thought.
going on. Yeah, but no, I think it was just trying to get to that couch rhyme.
Yeah, it was... Anyway, so we get another Brit crew member. This one has a mullet. Mm-hmm. He's very attractive.
Yep.
Later on, we find out that his name's Liam. And I wanted to make a note to you, which was, I'd say 50% of the men in the UK are called Liam.
Right.
It's Liam or Callum.
Right.
Of a certain age. In fact, you met my friend Liam that lives over here.
And is
on my
Liam
birthday.
always short for William?
No.
Oh,
Liam
sometimes
is
it's
Liam. Oh no, it just is Liam.
Oh, I thought it was always a short. I thought
No,
it was
it's
short
not.
for
It's its
William.
own. It's
Okay.
full own name. Unless I'm making a huge mistake there.
Okay.
So we get the Brit crew, and then a black woman enters. Oh, I made myself laugh with my own notes. I forgot who that was. It was Raven.
Oh, I was like, who?
I simply wrote a black woman enters.
Okay. Yes,
So-
Raven's back.
Did this mini challenge make sense to you? Because you must have. Have you watched the Graham Norton show before?
I have seen clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. When she said big pink chair, I was like, "What's the joke?" Like,
Right.
You know, like they love to do like big pink furry box. You know,
Yes.
but I was like, big pink chair.
So do you want me to explain this to you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so on the Graham Norton show, he always does, or nearly always does, a segment where he's got all the guests out, because it's one of those shows where everyone stays out, and they do this bit at the end of the show where it's called the Big Red Chair, and they've pre-picked out some people from the audience who are going to tell a funny story, and they basically cut to them on the monitor. They're at somewhere else in the studio, and they're sitting on this big red chair, and the whole joke is that they have to get to the end of their story. It has to be interesting and funny enough without Graham hitting the button that tips them off the chair. And it looks funnier on TV on his show because you don't see all the stuff around it. They literally fall out of frame.
Right.
And they they find outrageous stories. So it's just this fun thing they do with the audience members.
Got
so
it. I knew I had to have been missing something because I was like, "What is funny about the big pink
Yeah,
chair?" I
it-
like the effect of them
Yes,
falling.
So this is basically the challenge is they have to make Rue and Raven laugh, and then Rue uses the term arse over tit, which is a very British term for
Right.
falling over.
Yeah, I thought when I didn't understand the joke, I was thinking like, what should it be called? They need a better name, like legs in the air chair, or like I'm surprised there weren't any like legs in the air jokes used there.
And I didn't quite understand what was going to happen here because I was like, are they just going to sit there and talk and try and say something funny? But they've clearly been set up to tell a very traditional joke structure
Yes.
joke. So I didn't actually write down everyone's jokes because
The only one who actually made them laugh was Kyron. I wrote that down.
Yes. And what was hers?
It was like something about a horse walks into a bar, why the long face,
Right.
and
I have a family history of alcoholism.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Very good. Lavoie, I thought actually she didn't. She was first up and she just said two nuns walk into a bar and then they pulled the lever, which I
Right.
thought was funny.
that was great.
Yeah. Octavia was terrible. Releasa gets fake slapped by Rue, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, that means she likes you.
Yes, 100%. My note about Kiki's joke is I just wrote the word Kiki down and then I never wrote anything else.
Yeah. They really started foreshadowing Octavia, Chara, and Kiki
Yes.
all are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And they've just remained in trouble the whole episode.
And they have the audacity to give Kiki the win of the mini challenge, which is just such it's just the most forced production moment.
Right.
So Rue announces the Maxi Challenge. She says, "You've all been booked onto the Graham Norton Show, and it's your chance to let us hear your charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent." And they get split into two groups, so that because there's going to be too many of them to go on the show at one point, Kiki gets to decide who's in the two groups.
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you here about how funny it is that in the UK it's called a chat show, and here it's called a talk show. I love the idea that like
Right.
the British people are like, we like to sit around and chat. It's so kind of like twee and annoying, but also like informal. Americans like talk. We like to talk to each other.
Right.
Two hideous country stereotypes working at their full maximum there. I'm not on anyone's side with that. So group one is Kiki. She picks herself and puts herself with Lavoie, Kyron, Marmalade, and Lil. And then, so it means the other group is Chanel, Chara, Octavia, and Relisa. Now, the queens quite rightly point out here, Kiki, what you doing?
Right.
Because she puts herself in a group of 5 and also puts herself with Lavoie, Kyron, and Lil, and Marmalade, actually, who are all great.
Right. Yes, it was a strange choice. And maybe she thought it was going to be like a group challenge win thing.
Right.
But clearly that was not what they were going to do.
Although, I do think that she would have floundered even more in the other group because
Yeah.
she would have been, at least in her group, everyone else was so good that when it got to her, it was just like, I don't know. I could just
Yeah.
imagine her. She would have tried to go even further in the other group, and it would have been even worse.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Okay, so we get a lot of gubbins here about them putting together, writing in their little notebooks. They have to put together kind of stories, much like you would with a chat show. You get your pre-interview questions, that
And
you
you've
have
done
to-
those before.
I have indeed.
Okay.
And I've told the story many times, but my darkest one was when my boss forced me to brief Kelly Rowland when she came on to promote "From Here On Out, I'm Your Commander." Do you know that song?
Yes, and so she was just with Kamala
Yes.
Harris and Beyonce
Yes.
in Houston, and I saw people posting, why didn't she make a Commander reference in
Yes,
her
and it was her.
speech?
I saw a still of her like screaming, and they just put the lyrics of Commander on there. So yeah, I had to brief her, and my boss forced me to ask her a question about Destiny's Child reuniting, and she didn't take her sunglasses off, and she just simply just went, "No," in this really
Great.
quiet voice, and I was in the biggest flop sweat of my entire life. I think I actually had to go and dry my shirt that I was wearing underneath like the hand dryer in the bathroom afterwards because I was gone.
Yeah.
Group one, Rue comes in for the workroom walkthrough, which is really hard to say. And group one goes to talk to Rue, and it's not too much. I don't like going into these walkthrough things. They're kind of boring, but I just knew that we were in big trouble with Kiki because my big problem, I don't know if you've been listening to the show, is that Kiki has this terrible habit of sliding into talking like an American Rue girl, and it is really her biggest weakness, I think. And she does it a lot here. But Rue gives them good advice, which is just basically you need to listen.
Yes. Yeah, it almost felt like this was one that didn't really need a walkthrough at all.
Oh, absolutely not. This was tough because it's because they didn't. All they had to do was write stuff down in a notebook.
Yeah.
They basically just had to write an answer down. So there's no prep work for this one, and this is really actually Rue genuinely giving them quite real advice. And Chara's kind of asking how she's going to stand out. She says she needs to push herself. Yeah. And Chanel needs to let other people talk. Then I saw this recently that I thought I'd tell you about. I saw on twitter.com, refuse to call it X, that, who was it? I think it was Marmalade tweeted out a screenshot of a text from Octavia.
Okay.
And it was Octavia now, this long after filming the show, only realizing after the episode aired that Dracula's child was a partner on Destiny's Child. That she didn't realize the whole time they filmed the show. She literally was like, wait, what?
I love that for her.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Because it makes me laugh because she was behind that name with such gusto of it just being a Dracula reference that's really sweet, I think.
Aw, yeah, no, that makes me love her.
Are you aware of the genre of music that is called UK Garage? I think I've tried to explain it to you on many occasions.
Yes, I've been explained it multiple times by you and Andrew, and I still don't fully understand it.
It's a very specific style of dance music. Now, I need you to listen to this like interstitial music that they use to get from the walkthrough to kind of getting ready for the runway. Listen to this. That is a pure 100% UK garage beat and sound, and it's so funny that they used it as a transition. This doesn't make any sense on this show.
It's kind of like, it makes me think of like more of maybe an animation or a video game.
Oh, I'm going to play you some UK garage after this. I
Okay.
mean, this isn't for you right now, but I'm going to play it and do some UK garage emceeing over the top.
Okay. What is...
Are you ready, London? Are you ready, London?
Okay, now I get it.
God, Percy, your dog is giving me just the nastiest look across the table.
Yeah.
We've locked eyes and it's... he looks so mad, like he's going to bark at me.
I think he doesn't understand why we're not paying full attention to him right now.
So this is a kind of a little sit down where they're getting ready to... This is another sit down where they're just kind of talking about working on their stuff for the episode. And we get really one of the kind of darkest and saddest things I've heard on Drag Race in a long time. So I don't think we should go too deep into it because it's just so dark, but Lavoie's asking Kyron where she gets her confidence from, and she says it's basically from overcoming essentially an abuse, like a child abuse situation, because she came out age 13 and was very like online, and she basically got groomed, and it's just, she took the guy to court. It's just a dark moment, and I think that, you know, kudos to her for saying it on the show, and also for Lavoie for being such a good listener and kind of person to do that with. I feel like that would have not been handled as well if it wasn't with Lavoie. So
it almost made me more confident that Lavoie is going to do great in this challenge.
Yes,
because she's like able to do the highs and the lows.
Yes,
yeah,
and she's like, you can see she's genuinely listening to her in the moment, as opposed to it just being on TV, because it's such a dark and real story, and it's certainly it's interesting to find out about people's backstories and stuff, but good Lord, that was just that was heavy. So, you know, I'm very proud of her for speaking out about it.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. So it's elimination day, and Lavoie enters the workroom, and I said she's dressed like every UK homosexual in that buttoned denim shirt is very,
Yes.
Everyone of her age in the UK who's a homosexual looks like that. Oh, tell me your thoughts about... Oh, was it you or was it Teddy? Oh, it was Teddy. Our friend Teddy texted us saying that Lavoie sounds like the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland when she talks.
Do you do an impression of that one?
No,
or
I do the Mad Hatter.
Oh, you do the Mad Hatter. I don't remember what the rabbit sounds like. Oh, yeah.
He really does.
And he kind of looks like, I can picture the rabbit, and he kind of looks like Lavoie.
Yeah.
This might be too early, but I wrote down, who is Holly Jervis?
Well, Liz, I've got a little something to show you. So,
Okay.
They sit down, they have the mirror chat, and the prompt question that they get given is, what celebrity would you like to interview? And Releasa says Tiffany Pollard, and, you know, Chanel talks about Sean Bean, and that's when, you know, we get that moment where Chara tries to make a joke about, oh, how would you interview Sean Bean? Because, you know, you'd never stop talking. We'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But Octavia says Holly Jervis. So I'm going to tell you to come around here, and I'm going to make you watch a clip, and then we'll talk about it after.
All right.
Okay, so we watched not all of Holly Jervis's X Factor audition, but we got up to just her singing because it was getting a little uncomfortable.
So she didn't make it any further than that.
No, but she went down in infamy as Holly Jervis. There's a few people who have auditioned for X Factor that at the time went down in infamy, and then in the past like 5 or 6 years have somehow resurfaced as kind of pop culture figures of fun. Honestly, people aren't being nice about them, but they're kind of a bit beloved. There's a
little bit of like Rebecca Black.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But because it's the UK, it's a lot more like grim and
sad.
And Holly Jervis does not have a fabulous career, you know, that other people could have in America.
But is she invited on things and like...
No.
Oh, okay.
She's still not. There's a few people. There's her. There's this woman called Dawn the Jockey who actually was referenced in the first episode of this season of Drag Race, but it doesn't matter. There's basically just a few kind of X Factor one-off auditions that have become kind of part of this Hun culture in the UK where people kind of love referencing it. So That's why Octavia said her. But
Okay.
honestly, watching that audition back, the way she's doing that kind of scoop bap badoop jazz number, I was like, she sounds like a lot of annoying people who are actually quite famous, like that singer Ray, who I don't like. She kind of sounds just like her.
Yeah, I guess.
But this
That was rough.
This YouTube video is very meanly captioned X Factor 2008 Holly Jervis, and then in brackets cave mouth.
She's got a big mouth.
So there you go. You're
And
now
a big personality.
you're now fully up to date on Holly
Okay.
Jervis.
Great.
You could reference that in front of your husband and see if you can
I
really get
will.
him with
He'll
it.
be shocked.
Okay, so we go to the main stage, and Rue comes out in just a lovely silver tinfoil gown.
A lot of metallics this season, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, I don't know. It's probably easy to transport.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, we've got Michelle, we've got Graham, and then Claire Richards. So at this point, is that when you started to understand who she was?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as they said steps, I was like, I know there's some sort of mixed gender group. Are there?
Yes.
Are they one of the ones that are like, there's like 10 of them?
No, there's only 5 of them, and
Okay.
they were kind of the first of that style.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, but they really hit the big time.
Okay.
Their whole thing was that they were produced by this very specific production group that made all of like Kylie's 80s songs and like
Right.
every a lot of the UK songs of the 80s.
Yeah.
And he came back in the 90s and put them together, and their whole thing was that their songs all had kind of ABBA-esque kind of sound to them, and they all had very specific choreography to the chorus of the songs that you could learn along with them.
Oh.
So then as kids, they would go on like kids TV shows, and then you would learn, and then obviously they'd play, you know, you'd then play their music at the school discos, and everyone would do the dance moves.
Well, that's very back.
Yeah.
With TikTok
I
and
know.
stuff.
Yeah. And Steps of, they then had kind of a revival a while back, and out of all the kind of pop revival groups, they made new music instead of just going on nostalgia stuff.
And Michelle joined them,
Yes,
right?
and Michelle joined them because one of their members couldn't leave Dubai during COVID.
Right.
So Michelle stepped in for her a few times.
That thing.
So yeah, so they weirdly actually ended up kind of coming back around and genuinely being an actual pop group again.
Okay.
It's very impressive considering
right.
considering their history. And she's known as kind of the main singer of the group.
Okay.
And actually weirdly also known
But she
for
wasn't
having...
trapped in Dubai?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
Our Claire wasn't. She's also weirdly known for having a really big mouth. She's
see
kind
that.
of the cave mouth of Steps when you think about it. Well, Liz, you're really getting some extra dot connections
learning
on this
so
episode.
much.
It's because I'm getting to talk so much.
Yes.
Benelle's not here shutting me down.
And
I
I
do
s-
talk too much, just like Chanel.
There you
Another thing.
go.
He's not going to like this episode at all.
But I would just say, like, also, like, in Benel and Ben's defense, like, she's making the show more interesting.
Yes,
and
that's true.
I wish she would just kind of almost, like, go all the way with, like, the plain Jane kind of
Yes.
like you can see her trying to pull it back and have these emotional moments, and it's just like, no, just be a bitch and like have
Yeah,
like one
she-
moment later in the
Yeah,
season.
she could have got away with being an iconic villain.
Yeah.
If she just kind of kept it going, it
Yeah,
would have been fun.
I think
but-
that's the problem with her, is she's not fully leaning into
Yeah,
it.
although that doesn't really work as well on Drag Race UK.
That's true. It's more earnest.
It's a much nicer crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the main stage category is going to be how's your headpiece. So
Great.
we basically cut to the main challenge, which is going to be a mini version of the Graham Norton show. He's got his set on the RuPaul's Drag Race set, which is fun, and there's a full studio audience, and it looked big actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the usual 4 people sitting around a drinks table.
Yes.
And we get Group 1 coming out. So Group 1 is Kiki, Lavoie, Kyron, Mom, and Lil.
Yeah, when Lil and Marm first came out, I was like, oh, they've done like a black and white theme.
Yeah.
They're all gonna wear black and white, and then they didn't. I was like, that was a bad choice, especially because they're sitting next to each other.
I know, and I thought just even from the jump when Lil got introduced, actually when Lavoie and Lil came out, I truly thought I really love the two of them. You know, like
Yeah.
I got like a warm feeling, and I was
Yeah.
a little bit like, oh, I wish it was the two of them on the Graham Norton show.
I feel like they both will be at some point.
Yes,
they're both great.
Absolute naturals, yeah. So Lavoie kind of gets the ball rolling in a pretty amazing way. So before anything happens, she jumps in and kind of starts bantering with Graham, and it's just very like, it really puts everyone at ease. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we can
Andrew
move.
always says safe pair of hands.
Yes, she's the safest pair of hands, and sometimes safe pair of hands feels derogatory, but like she's exactly who you want on a talk show.
This
She's-
was like her challenge. It was
Yeah.
it's
It was
clearly
hers
what
to
she
lose.
just does.
yeah. So
Yeah.
So yeah, she kind of jumps straight in and tells a really good story about accidentally going to the wrong wedding, and everyone's just very comfortable and happy.
Yep.
Unfortunately, next we get Kiki's segment.
Yeah. I just wrote Kiki Auk, bad wig, too small, which is a theme for her.
Yes, but she unfortunately, it's a little bit like harkens back to the days of Laganja.
Yeah.
And how when Laganja didn't know what to do, she kind of went into that whole like, oh, on my butt.
Yeah.
And even though Nat now has become almost the best thing that was on that season.
Right.
Kiki, unfortunately, her crutch to go back to is this kind of American accent, like, girl. Yes. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
But she's not saying anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, she tells a terrible story about jumping out of a plane in drag that doesn't have any jokes or any punchlines or anything.
Yeah. They try to help her too.
Yeah, she gets...
and it just doesn't really work.
Yeah, Rue's giving a real clenched teeth smile because she's in pain. Kyron tells a good story about being a kid and hating potato smiley faces and how she hid them under the sofa.
I wasn't really sure what those were.
Did you look them up?
No, but then I've realized, are they like hash browns kind of?
So we have, because you must have had Andrew explain what a potato waffle is to you before, right?
I don't think so. I've seen like a waffle fry.
Yeah. So in the UK, there's definitely an industry for turning the potato or turning the chip into, the UK chip, American fry, into something different.
Okay.
So we had Alpha Bites and Smiley Faces, which were two potato products. So they have kind of a coating on them so that it holds their shape. So they'd be in alphabet shapes, or the Smiley Faces literally are just smiley faces. They've got kind of fluffy potato inside of them, and then whatever coating is they put on the outside that gives them like a crunch.
Right.
And they're a staple of every kid's kind of dinner.
Right.
That's what you would always... Your potato product would come in some fun form, basically.
Okay.
Lil tells a fantastic story that makes no sense, where she essentially tells the story how she got bitten by a cursed pig. The pig put a curse on her. She had an accident on her bunk bed that caused her to get stigmata and go into her Catholic school.
Yeah.
It was... Yeah.
It was strange. It shouldn't work, but it did because she's charming.
Yeah, and Lavoie kind of chipped in and made a really good joke about it. Was the pig religious? The two of them were just... It was a dream team, the two of them.
Absolutely.
And what did you think of Mom?
I said decent, but a bit canned.
Yes, she did a really good job. She did, as they all said later, she did better than I was expecting, but it's because she stuck to her script.
It was a script, yeah.
And she didn't say a word in the rest of the interview, whereas the rest of them kind of tried to chip in. Mm-hmm. And then I just wrote, there was a point where they kind of had this like mini banter bit at the end where they were all kind of having fun, and they cut to Kiki, and I just wrote, Kiki is in the trenches here.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to say something, and you can see her, the wheels are just spinning, and nothing's coming out of her mouth, and she's just kind of looking at them. And
the only one in either group, I think, who actually did like interjections into other people's moments and banter was Lavoie.
Yes. She the only one that did it, and she did it successfully.
Yeah.
Because she did it respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And
totally.
she, like you said, she actually tried to help other people out as well.
Right.
So then I obviously started getting a pit in my stomach because I knew Group 2 was coming out, and I got very nervous.
Ooh, yeah.
But Relisa, just off the jump, looked amazing.
Oh, she looked great.
And I love the way that when they all sat down, I kind of thought to myself, and this is a little harsh, but Relisa they were all sitting on the couch, and she was at the end, and she was kind of lounging at the end of the couch, and I thought, oh, she's the only one that looks like a star here.
She projected confidence.
Yeah, a kind of cool, calm confidence that felt trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like all the rest of the girls, I think Octavia, Chanel, and Chara, not to do this to group everyone together, I think they all had the exact same issues going on, which is all three of them started off pretty strong and charming and interesting and funny, and they all in their own way lost grip of what they were doing.
Octavia, though, I thought she never made any sense. I couldn't follow the story at all.
She's definitely has the luck, not the luck of the Irish, the luck of the Welsh, which is that thing of a lot of the time Welsh people are considered to be very funny and charming because that accent makes everything feel very whimsical.
Right.
I felt like that was how it started for her. I was like, oh, she's going to tell some fun stories. But yeah, she was really struggling. Yeah. She had that, like, the voice that made me feel nervous. It was not good.
Yeah. I think Chara was helped a couple times by Graham
Yes.
serving her up some easy,
Yeah.
like punchlines or something.
Yeah, and I just wrote, Release is relaxed as hell on this sofa.
Yeah.
She kind of lays back and tells Graham a really good story about basically giving a straight guy a boner.
Yeah, and she actually even does a callback, and I can't remember what it was. Like was it to Chara's story?
Yes, she did a callback
Yes.
to reading the fine print, reading the small print.
I thought that was good because she didn't really have an ending to her story, but
Yeah.
she just used a callback to finish it.
And it showed she was listening. And then
Yeah.
we got I think Chara got a real lifeline at the end where Graham just threw out an extra question, and it was about
Yes.
her mum's love of Cliff Richard. You know who Cliff Richard is?
Nope, that's another one I wrote down.
How to explain Cliff Richard? He is a little bit like kind of Donny Osmond.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, my final notes was just Group 2 and Kiki. You in danger, girls. Okay, so we get to the runway, which is going to be, how's your headpiece? So who's up first?
Marm.
Yeah.
As a cell tower, I wrote. She kind of, yeah, she had, like, especially, like, those ones that they kind of try to make look like trees. Have you seen those
No,
in
I
LA?
don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yes,
yeah.
I do know what you're talking about. Yes. Yeah, she's good. Yeah, well, you have to say she's giving American cell tower, which is not a UK
Got it.
mobile phone signal tower. They do not look like that in the UK. Yeah, she's doing, as she describes it, retrofuturism and kind of the Ziegfeld Follies kind of look. I don't like it, but I also think it looks really good.
Yeah.
If that makes any
And
sense.
it's headpiece.
Yes,
Headpiece
it's a
forward.
solid headpiece,
Yeah.
and yeah, it works with her whole aesthetic and vibe. It's just not for me, but I recognize that she looks beautiful, and it's really well done. Kiki comes out, and she is wearing a headpiece that has angel wings attached to it and kind of a ballerina dress. I thought this was quite a confused look.
See, what she was going for, which she mentioned, like an accurate or a biblically accurate angel,
Right.
Which is like, if you've ever seen a
Is it Hermes, the Greek in Greek mythology?
no, it's but like if the angels that are described in the Bible are like just a bunch of wings going in
Right.
different directions and then eyes.
Okay.
They're really creepy and scary
Okay.
looking. And I was like, oh, she should have done some like really cool like glitter eyes.
Yeah.
And then I looked, when you see her closer, you see there's like these tiny little eyes. So she is going for that.
I see.
But it wasn't, much like I think is her thing.
Yeah.
Is like, it's just not big enough.
Right.
It's a little bit, she just clearly didn't come with as much stuff
Right.
as the other girls.
And that's when it's this point in the competition as well, when your notes have been, oh, you need to make things bigger. I feel so bad for people because it's like I've got what I've
anything.
got. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna change.
Yeah, that's always the worst. And that's why throughout this, I was like, maybe it's time for Kiki to go. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just feel like the poor girl can't get another
Yeah.
bigger wigs.
Ow.
She doesn't have those.
Ow.
Percy just attacked Fraser again.
So next up is Lil. She's doing kind of she's doing a life and death headpiece. So her
Right.
is death on the back, and then she's life in this little kind of heart shape at the front.
I
just
love
squished in.
I love the head stuff. I didn't get the centipedes. They didn't really work for me.
Yeah,
But I
it
thought
was-
she looked good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lavoie is next, and she's doing kind of showgirl, Club Tropicana,
Copacabana. Yeah.
very like everyone always references, what's it called? What's the Australian movie called?
Priscilla Queen of the Desert.
Priscilla, yeah, all of that stuff.
She's doing classic drag.
yeah.
Also reminded me of, have you ever seen, did you ever watch The Muppet Show, like the original?
No, but
Okay.
I do feel like I kind of almost. Does Miss Piggy wear something like that?
No, well, there's a great episode where Liza Minnelli sings the Copacabana song and they reenact it with Muppets. Anyway.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I wrote this is really tacky and fun.
Yep.
Next up is Kyron, and Kyron is wearing a headpiece made of heads,
Yeah.
and then molds of her face on a bodysuit. This was fun.
Yeah, it's
really
very
good.
The Substance, even
Yeah.
though I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the spoilers.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's kind of body horror, but
Cool.
and
Yeah.
she's being fun. Like her nipples were noses.
Yep.
And I couldn't see what her vagina was meant to be, but it was something. Maybe
Yeah.
it was an ear. I'm not
She
sure.
had a face on her stomach.
Yeah.
And it was all her own
Yes.
body
Yeah.
remolded.
It was good. It was good.
Very cool.
Next up was Chanel.
I said this was like good but safe.
Do you have the word haberdasher in the UK? In the US?
I know what it means.
But you don't have haberdasheries here, do you?
No.
It does seem kind of insane.
I think probably they did in the old days.
Yes,
when
it's-
people wore hats.
It's no, a haberdashery is not hats. It's it's like a fabric store.
Oh, what is hats?
Milliner,
Oh,
millinery. Yeah,
I think
does
I did not know what that was.
Yeah,
then.
millinery is hat. So, haberdashery is like a fabric store, or the fabric. Now they call it the haberdashery department of a department store. So if you go to like a John Lewis.
Okay.
In fact, we would actually say sometimes growing up, it'd be like, oh, I'll meet you at the doors. I'll meet you in John Lewis. Which entrance? Oh, the ones by the haberdashery.
This will be great because I can discuss this tonight at dinner with my father-in-law.
Yes. Oh my God.
Because he's deeply into the old trades.
Yes. Well, if you use the word haberdashers later, so it's haberdashery or you're a haberdasher.
Right.
If you
and
work
the
there.
milliner are the hats.
Hats, yeah. Interesting. Millinery is the hat.
Do you know
making.
like why the Mad Hatter thing is a thing? Do you know why that is?
Why?
So they used to use mercury in making the hats.
Oh, and it
poisoned them and made them go crazy. So that's why mad as a hatter is a phrase.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did you learn that from your father-in-law?
No, I knew that from something else. I'm not sure what.
Well, that seems like something that would come up in your research in
Yeah.
life, actually. So yeah, she basically says she is, it's an homage to her dressmaking, which she pronounces as homage, which I thought was funny. It's my homage to dressmaking. I said it looks pretty good and I hate it. Although Graham made a really funny aside, which was if you pull on one of those things, it flushes the toilet, which I thought was funny.
That was very funny.
Relisa comes out and she's doing kind of a Caribbean carnival headpiece with, this is a very kind of classic carnival look, but I thought it works perfectly for her.
Yeah, I said it was kind of expected, but she looks hot.
Yes, exactly. And I think Michelle makes a point that she's wearing the colors of Nando's restaurant.
Great.
So have you had a Nando's in your time?
I think I've been to a Nando's before,
Yeah.
yes.
It's one of the most overrated restaurants in the UK, but I do, thinking about it now, I would love to go and have a Nando's. It would be great. So Octavia comes out and she's doing kind of speaking of A, she's doing a tribute to the letter A from Octavia. So it's all over this kind of strangely shaped dress that she's wearing. And she's got an A as her headpiece on top of her head.
Oh, it's supposed to be an A.
Yes.
I couldn't even see that. Yeah. She looks kind of like a Batman villain in a fun way, but then the headpiece was not really doing much.
But I thought this was a fun look.
Yeah.
And finally, Charity came out and she was a broken gumball machine.
Yeah. I wrote down this probably saved her. Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's very well
before
done.
I even knew she wasn't in the bottom.
Yeah.
Or wasn't lip syncing at least.
And I don't like to repeat myself. I thought this was very well done and really clever, and I didn't like it.
I liked it. I thought it was cute.
Yeah. Safe queens are Kyron, Chanel, and Relisa, which means that we're going to be getting critiques for the other gals. Marmalade got a pretty good feedback. Graham was worried that she wasn't going to be good, but she ended up standing out. They loved her runway. Graham says he finds her intriguing, and they kind of agree that she maybe took too long to speak in that challenge, but she was good.
Yeah.
And then there was Lil. Do you have any notes on what they thought about Lil?
I mean, they kind of feel the same way we feel about Lil. We just like her.
Yeah.
Like she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, they basically said she just came out there and was herself, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
This was such a great challenge for Lil. It really, this was her the height of her
Yeah,
powers.
like I mean, just like the previous episode when she tells the hyena story, like she could have used that. Like,
right.
She just has a lot of like weird stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Kiki. So essentially, they thought Kiki was performing too hard, and Rue said it needs more humanity.
Yeah.
And Michelle was distracted by her outfit choice. So I felt bad here because I did see Kiki. I saw an interview with Kiki, and I didn't know she got eliminated on this week. Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for her because she was talking about being eliminated, and she was a little bit defensive about saying, "Oh, they were telling me to be myself, and I was being myself," and I was like, "Oh." Like you weren't.
Yeah, that's just
I feel
what
bad
people
for her.
say.
Yeah, it's it's really tough.
It's at this point, it's just like what they say when they can't really say you're not quite there.
Yes,
or
completely.
Especially, and also with the outfits, they give the critique of like, mix up your outfits.
Yeah.
What is she supposed to do?
Yeah, make a whole new one.
Create a wig that is better. No, she doesn't have it.
Yeah, Lavoie, they couldn't have been kinder. And then when she's actually on the stage getting her critiques, they have a lovely backwards and forwards where Michelle's just kind of saying that she loves that she's there to represent the kind of drag that she does, and Lavoie kind of just says, I was always ashamed of doing drag, and I feel very seen, and it was I got chills when she was
I know.
talking.
I felt so good for her. There was just like no doubt in my mind that she was winning this episode. It was like preordained.
Octavia, they said she kind of got lost in her story and it fell flat.
Yep.
And then Rue basically says to her, I would have lied and made up a funnier end to the story.
Yeah.
But she got some nice comments about her outfit regardless of the headpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chara, they just said he made her story too long, but she saved herself with the Cliff Richard one. And Rue says she's very charming and sweet.
Yeah, and I really liked the way her voice is distorted by that bubble around her.
Yes.
Like throughout, it sounds like she's like underwater.
Yeah,
It's
she
really
was kind of
funny.
just like, thank you very much for the comment. So we head to Untucked.
Yeah, I just liked that Benel was just wearing a normal dress, but decided they needed to switch into a full robe for some reason.
Yes.
Like, it looked like just like a black dress. Like it was so uncomfortable about it. But
And they do a good bit where Kyron starts talking about they're like, oh, you happy you're safe? And she ends up trying to go into her track record of wins and safes and bottoms, and then Releasa and Chanel just talk to each other about the decor of the room.
yeah, that was funny. I liked that.
Yeah. And then we get kind of I thought actually there was I thought Kiki did make a good point here, which is because she's kind of upset and she starts crying. And I thought she did a good job of explaining that she recognized that what she calls the Kiki-isms is what she goes to when she's kind of uncomfortable or doesn't know what to do. So I do think, at least she understands what they're saying, but I think she's also frustrated because she felt like she kind of did everything she could.
I think with someone like her, it's just like, this is what works when I'm hosting a night and I'm on a stage.
1,000,000%.
It totally works, and it's like it doesn't quite translate.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, Chanel does a terrible job here of trying to come for charity.
Oh yeah, that's where it was just like, no, just be hard and villainy.
Yeah.
And like you can have your moment later.
She should have gone harder in the moment when it was happening and said something really mean back to Chara and like thrown her off that way. That would have been more dynamic than kind of doing fake tears and pretending her feelings were hurt. Yeah. Because as Kyron says in her interview, she's like, oh, it's Chara, come on.
Yeah.
We all know she's not trying to be nasty.
And she
she's
just
trying
had
to be
like
funny.
a bad, awkward joke.
Yeah. The winner is
Lavoie.
Lavoie.
Obviously.
This is the voice. And safe is Mom, Lil, and Chara. So the bottom two are Octavia and Kiki. Why the hell wasn't this a step song?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what any step songs are, but I'm sure I would recognize one if I heard it.
Yes. Anyway, so the song is actually going to be Let's Dance by David Bowie.
We say Bowie. You guys say Bowie.
What do I say? Bowie.
British people say Bowie, right?
Okay, I don't know. Who am I anymore, Liz?
Okay.
What am I made for?
Cue the song.
I used to be British. Now I'm kind of American. Anyway. Now, I don't know about you, but I felt like this song was catered to Octavia over Kiki.
Well, yeah, she was dressed perfectly
she
for
looked
it.
like- yeah,
she
she-
looked like David Bowie. And I mean, I just thought they both clearly were like in good spirits about it.
Yes,
And
yes.
maybe Kiki was kind of ready to be done.
Yes, I thought she seemed kind of half done. So she was having a bit more kind of... Yeah, it's like she'd given up, but she decided by giving up, she ended up kind of having fun with Octavia. But it felt like I was watching Octavia do a live... Like I'd gone to a bar and watched Octavia do a really good, fun lip sync to a David Bowie song.
Yeah.
And just right. Octavia's a great little mover. I feel like we haven't really seen it as much. I thought it was pretty fun to see her dancing.
This was definitely the best lip sync so far of the season.
Because I do think the Drag Race UK doesn't really shine in the lip sync segments of the show. I don't think.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
but,
there's less acrobatics and kind of stunt stuff in the UK. It's more like.
Although Octavia, she did a couple. Octavia.
Well, she did the classic UK jump down to your knees.
Yes.
The knee shatter. And then, obviously, Octavia's Shantae You Stay and Kiki Sachets Away. So next week, it's going to be Snatch Game.
And 2 Queen Victorias I saw.
2 dueling Queen Victorias. And then pretty iconic is that 2 members of S Club 7 are going to be the question people for Snatch Game.
And they're like steps.
They came after steps. They were kind of marketed towards a younger crowd when they came out.
And I think they had a show in America.
They did.
Yeah.
They had Miami 7, then they had LA 7, and then there was Viva La S Club where they went to Spain. But they got kind of marketed as kind of, they were almost like a modern day version of the Monkeys. They had a TV show and then
so it was like a scripted show.
Yes, scripted show, but they were playing themselves and they were a band, but they were kind of fictional versions of themselves where they were a band that had got trying to break America and they ended up working at a motel in Miami. Well, thank you so much do you have anything else you want to say about this season of Drag Race UK?
No, it's fun.
Who's your winner? Now we're at this stage. Or maybe
I
give me
think-
your top 3.
I think maybe Relisa might be
Yeah.
on her way. Like I love Lil, but I feel like she doesn't say winner to me.
No.
She says top 3.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say Relisa is probably gonna be the winner this season.
Yeah, I think that me too. I feel the same. I do worry that maybe Kyron's gonna kind of stumble further later on down the path, and that Lavoie and Relisa are kind of. I think it's probably gonna be Kyron, Relisa, and Lavoie.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
With Lil as a kind of a solid fourth.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for bringing your dog that has assaulted me numerous times during this recording.
Great.
And I'll be suing you.
All right.
I need the money.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
You are right up my street.
Oh, you can't make me choose.
Igo by Toyota sponsors T4.
Fuck me, Lee Ryan's 13.
I remember we couldn't remember the word for table.